We are live, so you know what that means. Stoppage Time FC special edition. And we are going to take you all through what transfer a transfer looks like. We talked about this a few months back, but now we're going to kind of do a little mock transfer. It's Ron. I'm representing FC Big Shot Ron today, though. I got Zach, West London FC. In the corner, we've got Joe Mavor, super agent. And coming onto the camera here shortly will be Germaldo, Brazilian star, who is going to be the subject. So what we're going to do today is take you all through the transfer. I am representing the club who is trying to keep Germaldo from leaving. He is my star player. I've raised him up. I discovered him at age 17 in the favelas of Rio, and now he's grown into a star. But we've had some struggles, so he's interested in leaving. Let me swing this down to West London FC, aka Zach, and he's going to tell you about being the buying club.
Well, he has a lot to learn coming to West London here in the near future. We are a perennial powerhouse. As you can see in my background, we have the trophies to back it up. My office overlooks the beautiful pitch that you will play on, and what you can expect is excellence. It's something that we do, and I think you'll be real excited to join us.
And in the corner, we have super agent Reno Mavor. Joe explains who's going to not talk to you about kind of the role of the agent, and then we're going to kick it to Germ for a second, and then we're going to get into the negotiation process and how this works.
I am pretty much going to be the mediator here. I'm going to be making sure that these two gentlemen, while negotiating a fair price potentially for my main man Germaldo down there, are staying on track. I'm going to be looking out for his best interests, making sure he gets everything that he needs and wants from one of these two clubs. And hopefully we take care of myself a little bit too in the end.
Yeah, I was waiting for it.
Great.
Like kick me a little bit of cash here for my work.
Agent fees are a big part of transfers, which as we'll get into, you'll see. So agent Mavor will get his for sure. And the man of the hour, the star player, Germaldo. Germaldo, how are you feeling as you potentially make one of your first big moves as a professional?
I'm excited. Like when I tell you I'm excited, don't worry, Mr. Mavor, we're gonna take care of you too. You know, I'm talking matching Benzes. You talking next 10 days type of energy. That's what we talking about. For those who didn't know, that's a paid in full reference. Let's go. Let's get this money. Let's talk this money, man. Let's talk chicken.
So we're gonna give you all the background. So you might want to take your notes if you're at home. Germaldo is 25 years old. He's the attacking midfielder for FC Big Shot Ron. He's carried us for the last 4 years. Leads the league in assists, leads the league in chances created. He's the best in the world at that creative role. But we've had some struggles here. We finished in 8th place in the league, outside of Champions League football, even outside of Europe. Sounds a lot like another team in London, but that's a whole nother story. And Germaldo's a little frustrated, from what I can tell, some of the preliminary talks. His contract ends in 2024, but he may not be trying to wait till 2024, which as we'll explain later, free agency is not a thing in football. Very rarely, if you are a great player, will you become a real free agent, which we'll talk about. So I have been contacted by agent Mavor, and I've been contacted by West London FC, and they are interested in my player, Germaldo. So let's start there. I'm gonna start with Joe, aka Mino Mavor. What does your client want, sir? You're calling me all times of hour. What are you claiming?
Well, we wanted to talk to you before we made any decisions because we've been with you guys for so long, and you've played an integral role in developing my client. However, we have some concerns with where he stands and where we stand as a club and our direction going forward. We mentioned already that he's the leading assist man and chances created in the league. He's in his prime. And the fact that we are not competing in Europe this year on the biggest stage where my client deserves to be shining is a concern. And there have been rumblings that he's a little bit unhappy at times with the current manager. So we need to know what your plans are going forward for my client and how we're going to fix this problem of not being in Europe this year, because this is our main concern, because we love you guys. You guys helped us become the player we are today, but we have to look out for our future too.
Well, I definitely understand those concerns. We did have a rough season, 8th place in Europe, but that was no fault of Jamaldo. He led the league in assists. He led the league in chances created. We're working on a few transfers to get him a better striker who will finish those chances, and in turn make his numbers look better than what they already are, and in turn get us into Europe. We're not in Europe next year. We know that's a big thing for him, but I promise you here at FC Big Shot, we are absolutely working on a couple of transfers to get him the finishing pieces that he needs. So don't trust me. We've had Jamaldo since he was 17 years old, and he's so important to us. He's our best player. He's the face. He's gonna be the face for a long time. But we just need one summer to really get this going, to really get him the help that he needs.
That sounds nice. I like the plans that you guys got. However, we have been in touch with West London, and they're offering quite a nice package for my guy here with the opportunity to play in Europe. So I might want to give him an opportunity to make a little pitch here to my man Jamaldo, because he's got open ears and listening to what you guys have to offer.
Well, first of all, thank you for having me. I really appreciate this opportunity to address a potential superstar in the making. The thing is, at West London, we're already, a top tier team. We don't need extra pieces to build around you. You are the finishing piece. You are going to be the thing that gets us over the top, that wins the European Football Championship. I know that you're making about 110,000 a week there at FC Big Shot. We're prepared to double that and bring you in at 220,000 a week. So, when you couple the significant wage boost and the ability to be the finishing piece on a team instead of being built around, this is how you make a name for yourself. Do you want to be the guy that is up and coming for Brazil when you're representing your country, or do you want to be the name? Do you want to be the face of Brazil in the future? You get that by winning the European Football Championship. You get that by being man of the matches in the championship. I'm not saying you're not going to get that eventually at your current club, but you can get that now if you join West London.
So in transfer, this is how this conversation goes, because it starts with Reno, aka Joe, the agent, coming to the club, me, and saying, here are the concerns of the client, of the player. Now, a big difference, and I want Zach and Joe to jump in on this, is that we talked about there really never being such thing as free agency in football. So, yes, Jamaldo is under contract to me in 2024. But if he gives his agent the word to say, hey, go see what else is out there, it is not illegal for Joe to talk to Zach about moving. And that includes contract terms. So yes, even though he's under contract to me, Joe and Zach can negotiate a contract for him, assuming he wants to move. That is absolutely legal in European football.
The fact that I just offered him $220,000 a week or pounds or whatever he wants is not illegal, which in every other sport in the world would be a huge tampering issue, which would be a major fine. That's all legal in soccer. That is the norm.
Yeah, everybody's a free agent at all times, pretty much. As long as you got cash to go buy that person to get that player you want, you can go do that at any point in time when the transfer window opens. There's one in January, and then there's one that's open right now that goes through the summertime.
So essentially, if Germaldo really wants to leave, he and West London FC and Joe can have a contract already worked out before I have even started with, hey, this is the asking price. So we move further into the conversation. This is where Joe has now heard the terms of this deal. He comes back to me and says,
look here, man, he's offering double the wage bill and opportunity for European football this coming season. What can you match that? Can you match at least the contract or do a little better for us?
We can definitely talk about the contract. Double the offer. So he's currently on 110 with us. So I'm assuming you're going to want at least 200, correct?
Yes.
Okay. So we can do 200. And I know you. I've dealt with you many times in the past.
We got a good relationship. We got a good relationship.
We have a good relationship, but you have definitely gotten paid. So I can offer you 10% of what his weekly salary ends up being.
I'll have to go talk to my guy about that and see what he has to say.
Definitely talk to him. I know that he has concerns. Now, here's the thing: like in real NBA, NFL, and over here, the club and the player will almost never talk. I will never get a chance to actually sit down with Jamal because he has a great agent who says go with 20. So if you're looking for me to talk to Jamal, it's not gonna happen because that's not his work. So yes, can you please talk to him and say, hey, $200,000 a week. We can even talk about making him the captain. We can talk about captainship with the club as well. But yeah, we can talk about $200,000. We can talk because again, his contract is until 2024, and we have to have money to bring in other signings. So it may not be able to rip up his current deal, but we can definitely talk about adding some years on to what's currently there. So please relay that message to Germaldo.
I can absolutely do that. Well, I'll present what you guys are offering to him and see what he thinks, because ultimately this is his decision, and I'm just helping him make what he wants transpire.
So what will then happen is Joe will then talk to Zach, and he'll say,
hey, man, he's willing to throw in an extra contract, a couple more years with a little bit more money, and gonna give me a little bit cut too. And he is very loyal to that club. He, like I said, he's been there for a long time. So for him to really come up and leave that space where he's comfortable, what he's familiar with, I think he wants to, is leaning towards looking for that big stage, but his heart is still in FC Big Shot. So is there any way we can sweeten his deal a little bit if you guys are serious about bringing him into your club to get him to you guys? Because I think with the right deal, I think he'll take that. But we gotta work on his heartstrings. He's a little emotional guy, and he's feeling a little attached to my man Big Shot.
I totally get that, and I respect that. That's part of the reason that we have scouted him so heavily is the fact that he is the passionate player that he is. I love that about him. The thing for us is we don't need to tack on a couple more years to his wage bill. Like that's not a thing. He can get that now. As far as compensation for you, that's completely negotiable. I have no problems facilitating a fee for you. I would also I forgot to mention this the first time, but we are in the midst of signing a brand new sponsor for our kits, and I would love nothing more than to announce Germaldo's signing with the brand new kit sponsor. It is Dr. Pepper, and I feel like that would be fantastic to do a double unveiling. Show the new kit, show it proudly while showcasing our premier signing, the final piece to the championship. Like I said, 220 is where we stand for the wage bill. That's pretty finite. I have no issues giving him 5 years if he wants 5 years. I will also, if this is something that interests him, I can put a release clause in his contract, or we could leave it out. I'm totally fine either way. I'm thinking release clause wise that it's probably going to be at least 250 million. So with that, if we decide to go that route and we decide to tack on the release clause of that future sale of that 250 million, we're willing to give you 20% of that.
So for the folks at home, what a release clause is that if Germaldo goes to West London, he balls out at West London, and he wants to go to another club. West London can basically say, you can have Germaldo, but you're going to pay us $250 million for him. And as Zach just threw in a supreme carrot, 20% goes to Joe. So Joe would get $50 million of this $250 million if that happens. Now, at this point, it's now a conference call. So now it's me, it's Joe, and it's Zach all on the phone because this is now advancing further down the line than I wanted to, but now we're here. So now we get to the real. How much is this actually going to cost to pry Germaldo from FC Big Shot Run? Zach, take it away.
Ronnie, thanks for having me. I know this isn't a conversation that you want to have, but we're really interested in signing Germaldo. We think he can be a great addition to our team. We're here to basically see what the opening transfer fee would be for him.
So I hear through Reno Mavor that you are wanting to put a $250 million clause on him if we make this happen, correct?
Correct.
So before we discuss anything, if you think he's worth $250 million down the road, that means he's got to be worth at least 125 today.
I like the ambition there, but if we look back in the history of transfers for attacking midfielders, we can look back to the two most recent, most prominent ones. Kevin De Bruyne, he went to Manchester City, and Kai Havertz went to Chelsea. Now Kai went for about £80 million. That's as of last year, and Kai is in a very similar position to what Germaldo is. He was that young up and coming. He was the starlet in the making, but he didn't have that final piece. He wasn't that guy.
you just sold even Hazard to Real Madrid for what, 130?
Chelsea sold Eden Hazard to Madrid for 130 million. Yes,
So
he's a winger though.
If he's at 130 and Jamaldo at 25 is already an established star in this league.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, Kai Havertz was up and coming, but Kai Havertz doesn't have Jamaldo's resume or track record. There's no way he's going for the 80.
Kai Havertz is also 22. 3 years is the big difference. We both know this.
It is a big difference. It is an absolute difference, but we're talking about the best number 10 in the world. We're talking about the best number 10 in the world in his prime. And I can't look my fan base because I have to save face on this deal. If this happens, I can't give him away for anything less than 120. And with the 250 release clause that you all put on him later, I'm gonna need some of that sell-on clause because there's no way that I'm gonna come out this deal short now. Now, Joe, I know you're on the line. Reno, we call you Reno Joe. How on a 1 to 10 scale, what is your client's interest in leaving?
I would put him at a solid 7.5 to 8 at this point because European football is very important to his growth at this point and to take him to the next level. So I would put him in that 7 to 8 category on wanting to go. Okay. So I'm here to help facilitate this, and if we can come up with some compromises here to make both parties happy and my client happy. So
here's where I stand. You can have one of two things. You can either have your sell-on clause or you can have your asking price. You're not getting both. So you can either have 90 plus a 5% sell-on clause, or I'm willing to go about 105, 110 max.
$105 to 110 max. Well, definitely let's go 110. That for sure. Yeah, I want all my millions.
But you're not getting a sell-on clause. So that will be the last money you see from West London.
So if you're doing a sell-on clause at 250, and not the sell-on clause, if you're doing the release clause at 250, we're gonna assume the best that he's gonna ball out because that's Jamaldo. This is what he does. What's the problem with 110 and 5%?
That's not a concern of yours. That's a concern of mine. That's my bottom line. Just like you need to make a profit and prove to your board members that you're making a good deal, I need to do the same for me. I'm willing to compromise.
I know about the Dr. Pepper deal, right? So I know about the Dr. Pepper deal because I know
that's what happens when you qualify for European football.
You're gonna break shirt sale records with Jamaldo, correct?
Absolutely.
All over Brazil, all over the place. 110 and 5% based on what's gonna happen. You getting off light. I'm being nice to you at 110. I'm 110 and 5%.
Oh, don't play the victim here. This is an academy project. You paid nothing for him. You brought him through the ranks. You are turning, even at 110, 110% profit.
Yes.
Yes.
Yes, we are.
So and I'm willing to break the transfer fee record for an attacking midfielder to bring him to West London. And I'm not even going close to what the current record is. So you can either, like I said, take 90 and 5% or 110 and walk.
Now let me say this: if we do 110, if I take 110, no installments, because I know you got the rich oligarch upstairs who got all the money. No installments. 110 is split up in 2 payments. 55 now, 55 on January 1st, not over the course of his contract. 55, I want all my money by January 1st. 55 now, 55 January 1st. Irregardless as to what happens then.
No. Hear me out. I'll do over the course of 2 years, so we can do 4 installments. But I can't do 2.
What can't you do too?
It's just we need funding, just like you.
You need funding.
Mm-hmm. It's not cheap
Big
to run.
West London FC.
It's not cheap to run a championship football team.
Money?
I know you don't know what that's like, sir.
Oh, okay.
But
Right.
I mean, what more do you want from me? I'm breaking the record for you. I'm giving you all the money you want. I'm giving you 110. You can have it in 4. Your player is not happy. Your player is not happy at the club. He does not want to be there. So we can either do this the easy way, and I can facilitate this at 110, or I could go back to him and offer him more money and force your hand, and he sits out, and then I get him even cheaper.
Here's the thing: if you do that, first of all, if you offer more money, and I don't take the lower fee, it does neither one of us any good for him to sit and not play football for 6 months.
But it doesn't hurt me. I can use that money somewhere else if I have to. I don't want to.
He's not going to sit. He's got 3 years left on his contract. He's not going to sit and not play football for 3 years. That's not going to happen.
You're right, because he knows that you're going to cave at some point. You'd rather make money on him than let him sit on the bench and rot, because you don't want that. You don't want that negative publicity. We all know the story of how
I don't want the negative
players,
publicity, but you're not going to cheat.
I'm not cheating you. I'm not even remotely close to cheating you.
Oh, I know, because that's not going to happen. So at this point in the conversation, so these are how these conversations go. They go back and forth, back and forth. A big transfer like Jamaldo, in real life, tis months of negotiating. Mm-hmm. Months. So we're doing this in like a half an hour, 45 minutes. This
is accelerated. This is multiple conversations.
Version of how this works. So
if you take like Erling Haaland right now, mm-hmm. It's going to take all of the entire European competition, and Haaland isn't even playing in the Euros right now. So it's going to take the entire Euros, probably most of the entire summer transfer window, before a deal, if a deal comes
so
through.
These are never one call and it's done. These are multiple
speed dating transfer style.
Yeah, this is we are giving you this. That's a great answer. Speed dating.
Because we're talking between the two teams, but my phone is also being blown up by other squads who are also interested in Jamaldo's services. So I'm having these same conversations with probably 2 or 3 other clubs in other leagues and in other countries. So it's not just hey, we're only talking between two clubs here, like a trade might happen, and then maybe including somebody else in other sports. The agent's phone is going off constantly, trying to find the best package for his player with other teams as well.
And I know that some of you are probably wondering like how Ron would know about the shirt sponsor or the release clause. All that stuff gets out somehow. There are so many leaks in every single football team that it just happens.
Yeah.
Now it could be as tight-lipped as you want it to be, but it's somebody knows. And if it's not at the club, so if it's not my staff, then it's someone at Dr. Pepper. It's someone that is just a really good reporter, and he talked to somebody, and they're like, "Oh, well, he's putting a $250 million release clause on him." So that's where he gets that information.
Or some guy at a law firm that's drawing up the contracts and drawing up stuff that told his buddy while having a few beverages at the pub. And then it gets off to the wrong person, to somebody else who knows a reporter kind of deal.
So I want to let Jamaldo actually come on camera. Jamaldo, thank you for playing along with us as the star. So do you have any questions, not necessarily about your transfer, but just about how this process works. For just any questions that how this actually, because we're doing the very truncated version of what this actually is.
Well, no, I don't have any questions. I actually kind of understand everything fully. I have a couple comments though.
Okay.
The first thing is what a lot of people don't understand about these type of situations is this is not a loyalty over money type of situation. This is definitely about what is most important to the player. So if me as the player, if I say playing in Europe is important, why would playing in Europe be important to me? Well, obviously because of the exposure, that aspect of it. But the other thing is it's more opportunity if I'm playing in Europe. That's something else that people have to understand.
Brand
so Europe,
marketability.
then money, I can go to Europe and I can double my salary. That's why he would be offering that. And I play a mightily important position to the sport. I can't come and demand this if I'm just a left wing or a right wing. I'm not going to be as valuable in that situation. Now, the only position I may be similar value, and you guys can correct me if I'm wrong, will probably be a striker.
You'd actually be more valuable as a striker.
You actually be more valuable as a striker.
And truth be told, a winger is probably going to keep you on par with what your transfer fee is right now. But defenders will not, and holding midfielders will not. So guys that are more defensive in nature and your goalies, they don't command transfer fees like the attacking minded players do. So any of your front, let's say 4 positions, so your striker, your 2 wingers, and your attacking mids, that's where your money is, and that's where the highest transfer fees come from. And so that's where we're getting those numbers.
Absolutely. So, and lastly, the agent. People have to understand this too with an agent. His job is to finagle his way in and find money for him too. That's his job.
Skeevy bastards.
It is
I'm gonna need a little
And-
cut of that Dr. Pepper money
And the
too.
big difference, and the big difference between here in America, like in the NBA and NFL, your agent can only make a 4 or 5% of your contract. Like that's a rule. In this thing, that doesn't exist. So essentially, which does happen, and it happens in European football all the time. If I was a really scumbag, I could say, "Hey, Joe, this is what we'll do. We'll get Jerm $290 a week, and we'll make sure you get 40 mil."
For me to
And
lean on Jamaldo.
Jamaldo could eventually come to, and then Joe could come back to me and say, "You know what? We're good," and wipe this whole deal out. I'm not going to do that for purposes of this show, but these are the type of sort of really underhanded thing because the agents don't have that cap on what they can make off of a player.
These hoes ain't loyal. Because he absolutely will have that conversation with Ronnie, and then he will turn around and use that as leverage with every other club.
Right.
So he'll come back to West London and be like, "Well, we're sitting at 290 and I'm getting 40 M's. Where are we at now?" Well, now I'm like, well, now, and this is the kind of thing that happens. Now, I will say this, and for the purposes of this whole thing, an agent will probably never make 20% of a sell-on clause. Like that's a bit much. He could probably make that in fees and everything over the course of like Jamaldo's new contract, but he wouldn't make that based off of his future sale. Not that large anyway.
So to kind of wrap this up, because we want to get into actually another part of the conversation, the Euro Championships. So we're gonna wrap up our little mock transfer here. So so Jamaldo, do you want to leave FC Big Shot and go to West London?
So this will be the agent conversation, correct?
Yes.
This is actually where you and Joe could now speak. So we'll be quiet, and then you and Joe can speak.
So Reno, man, how you doing, man?
I'm great. We about to get paid, man.
We about to get paid. We about to get paid. Okay.
Both of us about to get paid. So it really comes down to what you want to do, man.
All right.
Where you want to go?
You know what my list is.
Mm-hmm.
I want to play it. Obviously I want to be in Europe. That's a big part of this entire process. Cash, cash rules everything around me. Like the Americans say, Biggie Smalls, big fan of him. And then of course, you, the agent. I do want to see, you've taken care of me from the jump, just like Big Shot has. I think Big Shot has been tremendous in what we've done, even though we've never seen eye to eye. But I think this may be an opportunity for us to maybe explore some different opportunities here. So what are they going to offer us? What are we looking at?
West London is looking at a $220 a week salary bump, so that's doubling what you currently are making, and they got that European football. So if those are your two big sticking points, West London seems like the way to go. As great as Big Shot FC has been to us, I think we might have reached our peak here and reached our ceiling. And if you're feeling the urge to get to that European stage, I don't think we can wait around, because anything could happen next year. You could, knock on wood. I don't wish this on anybody, but things happen in soccer. Injuries happen, and God forbid, in this waiting game for next season when FC Big Shot gets to bring us back into European fold, you get hurt, and then that kills any kind of deal we got going on. So I think the time is now, and we got to take that money while we got it, man.
What are they doing for you? Just curious.
They're going to take care of me.
Okay.
They're going to take real good care of me.
And that's important, because that conversation right there would absolutely happen. He's not going to tell him what he's making. Because that's not his right to ask that question. All he knows is that he's getting taken care of.
Okay. And we got that trust factor there, that he knows what I mean by that.
Yeah, that's a very real point that Zach just made. Which is cool. You didn't do anything wrong, but in real life, you would never know how much he got off of it.
Which is crazy to think that the man that represents
you wouldn't know.
The man that represents your future and your best interest, you won't know how much he's making off of you. That's on top of the fact that you're paying him too. So whether you like it or not, you're also paying him, because you have to pay an agent.
Yeah.
So 220, we get Europe. They're going to take care of you as well. Do we need to add any extra years or anything else like that? Or can we just finish out these?
That's a great question.
They have offered up to 5 years. That's negotiable, though, is what they've told me, is that we can do a little bit less if you want. You're 25 right now. So if we did 5 years, we'd be looking at finishing this contract up at around 30. We would probably get maybe one more good contract out of you at that point. So if we want, we could go back and look for a shorter term deal for years at least. And that will put us back in this negotiate new contract situation while you're still in your prime. So they're being real flexible with the years. And that's pretty much our decision on how many years they're offering.
So we in 2021, if we can get out by 2024 to give us that 28 range, so we can have that flexibility for one big sustained 5 or 6 year deal, that'll be ideal in this situation. So we can keep that. Hey, man.
And I'm gonna take care of you too. I'll take care of your contract. Don't you worry about that. If we don't like what we got after 2 years, we can always renegotiate.
Look, you liking what you see?
I got you.
That's on me.
So here's the thing, though. I want to interject real quick. If he wants a 3-year deal, Joe's going to have to come back to me and say, or I'm sorry, Reno is going to have to come back to me and say, hey, we want 3 years. At that point, as a club, I'm going to say, okay, that's fine, but he's not getting 220. If I'm going to take the risk on the years, then you're not going to get the full 220 that I want. So maybe it's going to be 190, maybe it's going to be 200. And that's got to be, that's kind of going to be the risk that you take. Now, is it really a huge difference between 20 or 30 grand a week when you're already almost doubling your wages? That's up to Germaldo to sign. But if I'm going to take the risk and take the lesser deal, then I have to get something out of it, because most of the time in the history of football transfers, when a new signing happens, it is bare minimum 4 years, usually a 5-year contract. That is the standard. Food for thought.
No, great. Look, this is why I'm throwing the curveball in there. Like, I want 3 years because I want that extra contract opportunity at the age of 28. That gives me 2 to 4 more prime years, and then some back end years there where I can be, secure.
Mm-hmm.
With that being said, if they came back and said 200, I would take the 200 because it still is a 90,000 a week pay increase. I get to play in Europe. I'm gonna still get the cash, and we're gonna win it, and we're gonna win one in the Euro League. What you mean?
And generally, there's a bonus for us too.
Yes.
There's a bonus for us if we win big titles as well.
But you didn't negotiate the contract, so
we haven't finished that conversation yet.
So at this point, Germ is pretty much sold on leave. So then here's what's gonna happen next. I'm gonna come to the office. There's gonna be a big email in my inbox that's gonna say official transfer request, an email from Joe. This is the same thing in the NBA or the NFL as a trade request, but this is an actual document that says I want out. And once I get this, that is the final nail in my coffin. There's really at this point no point in me even calling Germaldo to try to talk him out of it. There's only thing I can really say, talk to Joe is, at this point is, okay, we have the request. We are then going to speak with West London FC and start the negotiation. The second big negotiation, which you all already saw, which is now the transfer fee. Because when I call Joe, all he's going to say is, I hear what you're saying, but we already got a deal. So the contract that you all just heard, that's already done. So I can't even do anything. Like, I can't go call Joe and say, well, we can offer him this. It's over.
And the best thing for Big Shot is for Germaldo and his agent to never put in that transfer request, and for the two clubs to just hash it out by themselves. Because now that I know that transfer request is in, Big Shot has lost all his leverage.
Yeah, so now I have no leverage.
So now that 110 that he wanted, he's not getting.
I'm not getting it. So now, me and Zach, I say, Zach, you got me on that one. So let's call this deal. So this is all I can negotiate at this point. Now I'm just negotiating for the money. So all I'll say is, Zach, 90%, 90 mil, no sell-off.
And at that point, I would probably say we're willing to give you 75 and 2% of the sell-on clause.
So 75, let me do some quick math. So for purposes, me and Zach say shake on it. We're good. He then sends another document. So now I get my second document of the day, which is the official transfer request, the terms of it, the fee, everything. I sign off on it. I send it back to Zach. Zach sends it to Joe. Joe signs it. We send it to the league office. And Germaldo is now West London FC.
What number you want to wear at your debut signing and your kit sponsorship debut?
You get number 1, because that's where we going.
So there, folks, is a football transfer that is 45 minutes of work. That is 2 months of work done in 45 minutes. It definitely does not go that quick. shout out to Zach. Shout out to West London FC. He's a proper negotiator. Reno Mavor, great agent. I'm sad to see my star player go, but I know he's going to do great things at West London FC. We'll clap him when he comes back. We'll give him a clap when he comes back for his return. And that's football transfers, y'all.
And that happens for every single player that you see move.
Yes.
Which
this
is
will
crazy.
happen hundreds of times over the next 2.5 months.
The fun thing is when it gets to when it gets down to deadline day and you're dealing with people in different countries and different time zones and trying to get all this paperwork submitted in time. So these conversations aren't just like, hey, this is a 9 to 5 thing. This is happening midnight, 1 a.m. your time, 5 a.m. in the morning someplace else, and trying to get all that paperwork signed and sent and put in the proper place and so at the right time, since we're dealing with players all across Europe and different time zones. It's tricky.
If you've seen Sunderland Till I Die, then you'll know exactly what transfer day looks like. If you've not, and you've seen the movie Draft Day with Kevin Costner, think about the points where he's talking about trading draft picks and how tight and quick they had to decide and how like brutal it is. That's exactly what happens on deadline day, just like Joe said. It's nuts.
And on deadline day, so it's a really complicated transaction that you might have to work out in 2 hours. Now, again, this was 45 minutes, very basic. They have to do this in what we just did. They have to do it in 2 hours. And
for real, though.
But for real.
And get all the paperwork drawn up and legalized and all that fun stuff.
And into the league so the league can approve it before the deadline closes.
It is extremely complex. So before we sign out, fellas, let's go around the horn. First, opening some thoughts on Euro 2020. The first couple days, and some general thoughts on it.
I think it would be remiss not to start with what happened with Christian Eriksen, and be very glad to hear that he's doing well. He's updated everybody through social media that he's not back to 100% yet, but he's doing better. If you didn't notice or saw, he collapsed mid-game, and had to be given CPR on the field. Game was paused for several hours before they decided to restart. From what I was reading, he was pretty much gone on the field until CPR was performed and he was brought back. So it was extremely scary. Sports world was all over the place on social media when we saw this happen, and it was something that you don't see very often. So now I think would be where I would start. It was just glad that he's okay. Prayers to his family and everything like that, and everybody that is involved with him and friends and all that, because that was some scary stuff that happened.
Yeah, that was awful. No way to really segue out of that, but the old dog. We always call them the old dogs on the scene. Ronaldo just continues to score. Ronaldo's gonna score goals until he's about 65 years old.
He's the all-time leader in the Euros now for a goal scored.
Yeah, all-time lead scored in European championships.
First guy to play in 5 of them.
First guy to play in 5 of them. He really is. You know, we try not to do too many American comparisons, but he really is like LeBron in football. He's very similar. Just this unbelievable athlete at this advanced age. Zach, any thoughts you had on Euro the opener so far?
Yeah, so definitely, to hit on what Joe said, prayers to the Eriksen family. It was heartbreaking to see. I'm really disappointed in the media for the way they handled that. The fact that they continued to show him while he was being resuscitated. Big ups to I can't think of his first name, but Kier is his last name. The Danish captain who started forming a wall around Eriksson while they worked on him. He also tilted him on his side to make sure that he wasn't choking. And big shout out to the paramedics that got there, because when you have an incident like that, that's every second counts. So for them to get there as quickly as they did, and it probably saved his life. The thing that I'm reading that's really kind of intense is that even if, and this is a big if, the doctors clear him, he is already done in Italy. He can no longer compete in Italy because the Italian FA and Italian law states that if a player suffers a cardiac arrest event at any time, they are now barred from competing in Italian football. That's to protect the player. That's to protect everybody at heart. So, I hate to see it, and Christian Eriksen is not that old. I think he's 29. But maybe this is a chance for him to, kind of kick back and start enjoying time with his family. So, shout out to them. Other than that, I was really disappointed in the match today. I was really excited to watch France and Germany. And I just was left very, very underwhelmed by both teams. I was actually really disappointed in Portugal, the way that they played for 84 minutes of that match. And other than that, I didn't see anything that was really, really exciting. So hopefully, this is just some people knocking the rust off, and we'll see some more competitive games soon.
Yeah, the football has not been great the first few days of the tournament. I don't know if it's rust, tired from the long season, but to your point, the Netherlands, I think, is really the only team I think that's really looked good. Italy looked okay. The Italy scoreline, they didn't play. They weren't 3-0 better than Turkey. But other than that, the football has been kind of rusty. So we'll definitely hear at stoppage time. Keep an eye on the Euros for sure. And more transfers over the next few weeks. So
real transfers.
Hey, that too, for sure. So we're getting ready to sign out. It's FC Big Shot Ron. We're in 8th place. We lost our star player. You know what I'm saying? Pray for FC Big Shot Ron. It's West London FC.
You're rich. You'll be all right.
You're not going to. Hey, the real FC Big Shot Ron Arsenal is definitely not going to be okay. That's a whole nother story. It's definitely not okay. West London FC, a.k.a. Zach. Shout out to him. Reno Mavor up there. Shout out to him. And Jamaldo, the star player. Shout out to him. Stoppage Time FC.
That Photoshop. That's just brilliant.
Shout out to the Photoshop. Make sure you go check the Photoshop in the background. You see Jamaldo right there. Stoppage Time FC signing out, y'all.